Ladies and gentlemen, we are back here at Spill the Immunity Survivor 48. And Melissa, you're our co-host today, and you've moved into basically a pole position because we have Bree, who's under the weather. She says hi to all you guys, all you Spill the Immunity-ites out there. And then Alex will be here next week as well. So Melissa, welcome to Spill the Immunity.
Thank you. I appreciate it.
Oh, you're welcome. Well, first, I mean, we have a past, right? As far as we were on the same tribe on the very popular Survivor season, and that is Expedition Online, or not Expedition Online. We were on a COVID Survivor, right?
Yeah, the COVID one.
Back when everybody had everything to do and life was busy. Just kidding. No one had anything to do. So we all played these online reality games online, and we met for like maybe 3 minutes.
Yeah,
we tried to vote somebody out, and we were 0 for 1, and you went home.
Yep, and I went home because because I was the only girl. You guys are sexist.
Well, we'll get into that later. The gloves cannot come off this early. It's way too early in the morning. It is 9 a.m. here in Indianapolis. And Melissa, where are you at?
Right now I'm in Charlotte, North Carolina.
And tell me about your Survivor fandom. What brought you to enjoying Survivor? Season 48 on Spill Immunity is all about the fans. So tell me like where it started for you.
I've been watching since forever. I've been watching since day one. I like on and off. I wasn't like a huge fan. Like I was like loyal to it. Even now, I like watch it the day after. I'm not like on there live with it. But I've always watched it. The first time I really got into it, me and my friend Erica, we did the live, like where you go there and actually audition at Hard Rock.
Yes.
At Hard Rock,
where all the diehards were, and people were wearing buffs and dirt on their faces and all the things. Yeah, and none of them got accepted. I'm sure. Have you met like a actual person who later became a survivor at that Hard Rock that you remember?
No. But that was also in like 2003 that I did that.
That was early. Like
so
4 or 5 or 6, somewhere around
there. That was in Tampa, Florida. It was the Hard Rock was like brand new. They were like one of the first things. And so me and my friend Erica went down there and applied. There was a bunch of people. I ended up like starting to talk to some of them, but at the same time, I was kind of like, I don't know about these people because, like you said, it was like
you start to question yourself, right? You're like, oh wait, hold on, I see what's going on. I'm one of them. So yeah, I completely.
Yeah, and then you realize you're like, oh wow, I'm just like this. Only I'm not coming in costume.
Right. Well, you're also sitting there like, cringing because you're like, okay, I'm not these people, but I need to correct them on their Survivor nerdiness because they said something wrong. It's Rob's sister Nino, not Mino. Yeah, so like I completely understand where you're at on that. But this is an okay place here in Spill Immunity to wear your Survivor nerd hat or your Survivor nerd ascot. You can do that. So thank you for coming to the show. And I want to say we will give you a free chance to be on next year's Survivor 49 here on Spill Immunity. We're gonna play a simple contest where I'm gonna put enough fingers out, and whoever has the lowest amount of fingers showing gets to be on season 49. Are you ready?
Is that supposed to be a clean version of this though? Like what?
I don't want to know what you're thinking right now. Okay, so again, lowest amount of fingers. Well, I'm gonna show 1, so you do whatever you want, right? All right, 3, 2, 1, go.
But I'm not 2. You're 1.
Oh, so I win the trip. Did you see that? That was a cool way on the show to pick who gets to go on the excursion. Did you like that?
I actually did really like that. I was like, that's actually that way they can't sit there and fight over it. There's nobody like, oh, I really don't want to go, but I want to go. Yeah, I was like, this is actually them being like, no, you guys don't have a choice. You guys are going to have to send whoever does it. I actually really liked that way because it didn't leave it in the hands of the castaways.
Yeah. And I think that there are ways that it sounded like you're going to say 3, 2, 1, and you're going to do this, right? But I wonder if they try to do that to make it as random as possible to get people to think right away, or if they were allowed to kind of talk it out to where if somebody was like, hey, like, I kind of want to go, would you guys allow me to? And I wonder if they could have that conversation. Right.
Well, it seemed like they were able to talk it out because, like, Saya's group, they sat there and they did it a couple times, and that's why Saya had her little hissy fit about, well, they should have just let me go because when I wanted, they were. But then they sat there. My guys didn't sit there and let me do it the correct way, and
yes,
they should have just obviously they let them have a little bit of time to work out a kink.
I'm hoping that they bring that back because I think there are ways that you can, not that there wasn't strategy, because to tell you the truth, like I paused my screen 20 times just to count everybody's fingers to kind of figure out why they chose the numbers they chose. Like some people were showing 5, like, I don't want to be a part of this at all. Like I'm just not going. And some people did like the 3 thing. And then you had the practice where somebody switched their numbers. So we'll get into the science of the I can't say finger game.
That's finger science.
Yes, yes. We'll call it something else when we get there. But let's start first. We have done before we even start the episode. We have done a draft. Last week we had Brennan Gandy here, super fan, and my pick was Kyle. I had number 1 pick. Did you have a person that you liked at the very beginning of the season that you're just like, this is my guy or this is my girl?
I mean, I do, but I don't think he's going to be a winner. Unfortunately, I really want him to.
Did you pick him before Survivor, like
some
research, or did you pick him like after episode 1?
So I always do. So I listen to all the pre-interviews. I do listen to every single one of the pre-interviews just because I want to see what the vibe is on there, and it's usually pretty good to listen to them because they all judge each other at Ponderosa, even though they're not talking to each other. They sit there and physically watch each other, and they're like, so I had a very good feeling that Stephanie was going to get voted off the very first episode because, like, literally almost half the cast was like, we didn't like her. So I was like, that girl was doomed from the beginning. So when I watched the pre-interviews, I did like this guy from the pre-interview, but I usually don't sit there and say, do I really like him until the first episode?
Okay.
Because of the fact that just because they give a pre-interview doesn't mean that's how they're going to come out of the gate and actually play the game. So
right, absolutely, because sometimes you play so fast, say, that you don't have an opportunity to even consider your game anymore. Once somebody starts playing faster than you, unless your game was to react, then you really your game is shot from then on out, and you have to be able to improv as quick as possible, especially if your team has already been to tribal twice. If you don't have your game figured out by now, then you have to be very, very patient and be able to think things through and have multiple plans, right?
Yeah. Oh, yeah, absolutely. But they say that, and they're like, I don't know, I could get out there and I'd be completely different. But Joe, I absolutely fell in love with Joe. I loved his story. I loved his backstory. I loved what he's wanting to try to come out there and prove. And then even on first episode, he acted exactly like he did in the pre-interview. So that's the one that I think that's going to win. Unfortunately, I don't think I would like to win. I don't think he's going to, though.
I think he's going to sack it. If we get that comment back up, I wanted to talk about the message we just got in. There it is. I figure out for Joe is I think he's going to be a sacrificial lamb sometime in the season for Eva. But right now, episode 2, Ava's kind of showing, maybe I should not tie my sail to that or tie my anchor to that boat, or whatever the phrase is. Let's go with this quote. That was the best method. I think it gave an advantage to those who went because now people can't target them for wanting to go. Thoughts on that?
I think that's a great thing, but once again, it has to come with content. It has to sit there like, did they discuss that first? Because like you and I, when we just did the finger thing, you were like, I'm going to pick one, so let me go. I mean, you don't know. There could have been literally somebody that was like, hey, I really want to go. If you guys don't want to go, let me just show on camera that I picked the lowest number. So, yes. I mean, it depends on the content behind it because obviously they only showed us the finger one. They showed us a little bit of them actually practicing. So absolutely, if it was 100% pure of that's exactly what they did, then that's great. Then you can't sit there and be like, oh, well, let's all talk crap about this person when they're gone. Let's do this. But if they sit there and strategize beforehand and actually had a plan before they did the finger thing, then yeah, it's.
Yeah, it gives more people a chance. And again, like I seriously paused the screen 15, 20. It's going to turn in by the end of this episode 37,000 times because I'm so exaggerated. But you know me. So I looked at it. I did the math, and those who held up a 5, those who wanted nothing to do with this, was Shoeen. Is that his name? I'm going to get his name wrong every episode until.
Don't they call him like SD or something like that?
Let's call him SD. So he was a 5, and then Chrissy was a 5. Who I don't know if she will. I don't know if she's going to play this game the whole season. And then Joe, he was a 4. Kyle was a 4. Long-haired guy. Who was that? Justin, thank you for being here. It was a 4. So there's a lot of people who it's easy to be like, hey, I'll just put up a 4 or 5 and not go on this thing and stay in a majority crowd. But then you have those players who I think the people that are kind of wanting to and trying to play a strategy are those 1 through 3 people, right?
Yeah.
It's Thomas had a 1. He got on. And I think he was thinking, okay, like I'm just going to give it a whirl. What's the strategy in putting the first finger, knowing that that's probably the one that's going to be canceled at the most? What do you think is the strategy behind a 1?
It's to sit there and say, I want to go, but you know that other people are going to pick it. So you're like, but then I could sit there and say, okay, well, I'm going to let you go. So it's like sitting there trying to build trust. That's what I think it would be. It'd be like, okay, well, I know we both pick it, but you know what? I'm going to go ahead and give in to you and I'll let you go. So it's that like comfort zone of each other. There's like, I had your back.
Yeah. Yeah. And I think the quick thinkers, the ones who thought about the most, I think there's the ones that put a 2. I really think that is the victory pose, Richard Nixon style, where in the first tribe, I think Thomas just got really, really lucky and got the 1, right? Because I think Star, who I think is the one who's really trying to play this game hard. We'll talk more about her later. She had the 2. And then on the second tribe, I think it was Mitch who had a 2. So again, I really think the fact that he has the speech impediment, I said last episode, that really gives him the ability to think things through, right? Because in order to enunciate, in order to articulate, he's got to go a little bit slower. So I think his brain has kind of either it's naturally happening or he's learned to do this, move slower. And then the other 2 I have down was that famous Mary and say thing where they say switches, right, from a 1 to a 2. Why would you switch if you were Shay? What's the logic behind that? Because I think I know.
I think it was one of those things that she was thinking that Mary was, or that the guys were going to then go. Maybe she was judging that the guys were going to try to get Mary to not go. So she was like, I'll do it as a 2, thinking that one of the guys will sit there and go against Mary, and then they'd have to throw it up again. But she'd have the single by herself of 2, the lowest number. So that's like that's what I was thinking that she was going to do. That's what she was thinking.
I think of anything that ever has happened these 2 episodes, Say showed that she really thinks that she's solid with these guys.
Yeah.
And she's playing also, I think, a very I wouldn't say selfless game, but a game that she wants to work with these guys. She put the 1 first, and she's like, well, someone's going to put the 1. It looks like Mary's going to keep with the 2. So I'm going to show the 2 and match Mary, get her canceled out, because I want anybody but Mary on that boat. There's something about Mary, Melissa. And she cancels out nobody, and Mary is the one to go. I'm going to use that with my kids on every argument we have as a family from now on. That game's fantastic. So we're going to get into it. I saw that Bree's in the background. Everybody, you can say hi to Bree on the chat if you miss her. We all do. But we're going to have her put on the teams right now, because we are going to talk about somebody who's been eliminated, and go ahead and show it. And Alex loses 1 this week. There it is. He loses his second pick, which it's good for him to lose. It's a humble pie, Alex, because I think he went like 17 months last season without getting somebody out. And so Kevin, what's your thoughts on Kevin being out this early? He seemed like he had the smarts to go far.
I think that his strategy actually was a genius strategy if anybody would have listened to him. I actually really do appreciate what he was sitting there saying, because he was really trying to stay with the guys. He was really trying to be like, let me go ahead and deal with this, guys. And he was trying to explain to them, look, if we get Mary out right now and Say does not use her or my idol, then one of us are screwed next time. Because he's like, I am realistically looking at our tribe. We are the losing tribe. We are going to lose. We do not have the strength. We do not have this. He's like, we are going to lose. There's no ifs, ands, or buts about it. He's like, so if we allow Saya to keep her idol and we vote out Mary, the next time one of us are going to go.
Yes.
And his mind thinking like that was just amazing. I think that was great. Unfortunately, Cedric took it over to Saya, and right away Saya was like, I want Kevin out because he said my name. So
yeah. What do you think about Cedric's? I mean, Cedric after the challenge was basically saying, hey, like, I understand, guys. And I think he's been authentic. I don't think he was playing a game that was, hey, I'm going to pretend that I'm down and out, but I'm going to, so I'm going to say that, you know, if you vote me out, I understand, guys, for my lack of performance. I think he was being authentic on that. And then he goes from that to basically being almost the kingpin, or right behind the Oz of the Kevin vote. What's your take on Cedric's game right now?
I think Cedric is trying to play the like humble dad part, where he's like, oh, I learned a mistake about myself, and that's absolutely it. And he came in, you know, hardcore with the, oh, I made a mistake. Let's, you know, but anybody who watches the show knows that, yeah, that's a first out of your mouth kind of reaction, but you don't really mean it. You're like, I don't want to be voted out second. I don't want to be voted out even before I want to win. I mean, what is the point of going on this game if you don't want to win? I don't understand that.
I totally get that, but I do think that there's some people out there that especially I think a very stand-up guy like Cedric, who I don't know if he played the card. Like he played it right if he did play the card. Mm-hmm. But I think that there is some people that go out there that want people to know, hey, like, I totally get it. And he did. He screwed up that challenge for them. Mm-hmm. So are you saying 100% he's bluffing? Like he's
no, I wouldn't say that he's bluffing. I think that he came in with that actual feeling of, oh, damn, I screwed this up. I did this. I think that once he said, I completely understand if you guys vote me out, he probably had a minute to sit there and say, why did I say that?
What am I doing right now? Do I remember the 37 Hard Rock cafes I went into in the last 20 years?
Exactly. So I think that it was one of those aha moments that, you know, you're very humbled when you get something like that. And when you see, especially if you've ever played team sports and you know something was your fault, you always go in and you apologize and you sit there and say, I'm so sorry that this happened. I'm sorry that this was my fault. And instead of just stopping at that point and saying, I'm sorry, and saying something like, oh, we'll do better next time or something like that, he continued with, I understand if you guys want to vote me out. And I'm thinking, I don't know, obviously, but I'm thinking that he had an aha moment when he walked away from that saying, why did I say that? He
definitely picked it up. Like I think he was the Oz behind the Kevin vote. And so we'll get to that here in a second. Bree, thank you for being the Oz behind this episode 2. We'll go ahead and shut that down. We have my first note I made of the show. Did you take notes during the show? Like
I do.
Amazing. Even when you're not on the podcast, are you?
I do, because I want to make sure that I'm actually thinking about it correctly. It's so weird. This is one of my and you know what my other obsession is. These are my 2 obsessions, and it's one of those things where I'm like, I am hardcore, like into when I do it. So.
Yeah. Well, I'm glad. Again, the nerd hats, the nerd ascots, the nerd jackets with the lettering, just fake maybe as the embroidery. This is where it's all about here on Spill Immunity. So I am not a you're gonna have to help me out with names. Usually Alex and Bree helps with the names. The big strong stunt guy.
Danny.
Yes. Where are you at on him before I completely do my Dannyism of the day.
So these are normally the guys that I absolutely fall in love with. Like I loved Hunter, I love Jonathan. I'm a huge Tony fan. I mean, like those are usually my big go-to guys. For some reason, Danny's just not doing it for me because of the fact that his arrogance is overseeding his actual physical body to me. I'm like this man, really.
He is hitting coach levels almost. Like he's dangerously close to coach level.
Yeah, but the problem with him is like Coach didn't appear to look like that, but he appears to look like it. So he looks like he should be able to do everything. I keep on waiting for him to be like a not Mad Dog. What's his name? From a few seasons that couldn't throw for crap.
Not Mad Dog. Yeah, because Mad Dog's a wonderful lady. Who was that? Yeah, I know who you're talking about. He's a poker player.
Yes.
Yeah.
See, I absolutely loved him when he first started.
Fans, tell us who that is. The famous poker player that he had a nickname of some sort. Go ahead.
Yeah, I absolutely loved him when he came out on his season, and then when he started doing the challenges, I was like, this man cannot throw, he cannot run, he cannot do anything. So he gives me that same kind of vibe because that's how he acted on there. But David, he looks like he could do anything. He's a stunt person. But his arrogance level, even when they were looking for the idol, he was like, I need America to know how great I am. And it's like, well, yeah, you didn't find the idol either.
What's this guy's name again? Help me out.
Danny.
Let's make Danny great again.
Yeah.
Yeah. Is that what it is? On there.
And I honestly thought
my wife's giving me the eye roll.
Danny.
What's that?
I really thought I was going to love Danny because he's from Colorado. Well, he lived in Colorado for a little while. He used to be a kayaker person, and then he was a ski instructor and all that other stuff. So I was like, oh, yes, we have a Colorado person on there. And yeah, now I'm like,
this is your representation. Hey, we had somebody from Noblesville, Indiana, which is a little north of us. And she was on. She wasn't bad. Like she had no quotables where I said, oh, coached here. But she did not represent like we wanted to. The last one we had in Indiana was Rupert. That was the guy that really brought it home for Indiana. Who has been the Colorado standout?
I know a bunch of people that live in Colorado now that have played in Survivor, like John Pilot, JP from Thailand is on there. He lives in Colorado now. Gianna, I can't remember her name. She's the one that had the inappropriate touching that happened that one season.
Colorado's not looking too hot either, huh?
No. Me personally, I think people move there for the wrong reason now. So.
Oh, well, we won't talk about that at all. So let's hear from our watchers, our viewers, our listeners out there. My first note of the show was that Say said, I am the one in control right now within the first minute of the show. Foreshadowing, absolutely. And she is in control. The thing about a fast game is you have to be able to keep up with yourself, right? You don't keep up with yourself, you are done for. But if you're playing faster than everybody else and you can keep that control, you got a great chance of winning this thing. So I think right now I'm okay with Say at this moment. I wasn't last week, but she's showing that she can control. And she's a pit bull, man.
Yeah, I think right now she's in control of her tribe, but I also think that she's not on a tribe of really alpha people.
Right.
And I would love to see what's going to happen when she gets on with other people that are more alpha people. It's going to happen eventually. And I think that somebody's going to recognize that and they're going to be like, no, we're not going to do that.
You're right. She is on a tribe of librarians right now, where I do agree with that her game change? Who will be the top dog when it comes to later on the show? But again, talking about the other dog where Jeff even said during the challenge, he's like, oh, there's a Danny, right? I'm gonna get the name right by the end of the show. Danny doing stunt-like things or something. He said, just didn't know what he was doing.
You know the part that drove me nuts, where he's like, "Look at him acting like Tom Brady, throwing those 55-yard passes." I was like, seriously?
Oh yeah, Jeff is lathering the ego, man. Lathering the ego. So my big thing about it, and this was the quote. He basically said, oh no. I want to go back. Yeah, let's talk about him real quick. He basically said, I don't want people to think that I am better than everybody else. But then he goes on and says some kind of comment where he says, yeah, I'm better than everybody else. I don't know if you caught that or not. We'll talk about that later. My next note was a say note. And it says, but I wasn't expecting my name. It was right after Tribal at the very beginning of the episode where she says she wants Mary to think that she doesn't hold grudges. But the thing she said in order to show Mary that she doesn't hold grudges was something you say if you want the person to know that you're holding a grudge.
Yeah.
Does she have self-awareness?
No, I don't think so. I think that she thinks she has self-awareness. I think that she is like, even when they in the challenge, when she started yelling and she started screaming loud, and then they showed her, oh, I'm sorry that I yelled. It was like, I think that she thinks that like these little false apologies is going to get her farther than they really are. And I think that, I mean, it was funny because they sat there and showed her sitting there showing that, oh, I don't hold grudges. And then right away they show Mary, yeah, she's lying. She's like, there's nobody that's not going to hold that. She was like, I personally don't understand why people get upset by seeing their name on that parchment. It's going to happen. The whole entire game is called Survivor. There's only one. Yeah. I mean, it's very, very rare that, I mean, it's happening more and more often lately, but that you could make it through the whole entire show without having your name written down at least once. Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. So if you see your name.
Well, especially if you're playing hard, especially if you are an early threat, that your name is going to pop up here and there and everywhere else. So I just thought that it was comical. I think it's going to be a theme of the season for both Mary and Ava. You know, how you know your issue, you know your weakness in this game. But do you know when you do it? Like, do you know at that moment when that weakness takes place? And those are very difficult weaknesses to get over. I think we're going to see a little bit of evil Ava, or kind of like a Eva at her weakest next episode. But we're seeing it from Say repeatedly that she just does not. She knows her weakness, but she's really doing not too much about it.
Yeah. No, she wants to control everything. She definitely, and she's loving the fact that she's in control of everything right now. Mm-hmm. I want to see what's going to happen when she actually loses that control.
Yes.
That's going to be an interesting episode when she loses that control and she doesn't have these people just going to and doing what she wants them to do. That's going to be, I think that's going to show her real personality, where it's going to come out and it's going to be oh my goodness, she's going to explode.
I totally agree.
She's going to be the one that throws the rice in the fire and all that other stuff. She's going to.
Oh, I missed Jatia. I missed Jatia. Okay, so then we had
War Dog. That was his name. Sorry.
What was it?
War Dog.
War Dog. That's what it was. That's what it was. 5 points goes to Melissa. So then we have the 4-nipple Greg, or 4-nipple Danny comment, or whatever his name is. Yeah, so we're gonna bypass that. And then I have down Ava talking out loud and tells Star she can sit out. This was when they were talking about the challenges. And again, I think this is Ava's downfall, is she kind of just says things sometime and doesn't realize, doesn't have necessarily the social cues or know exactly how to frame the Star sit out. Because you can say, I don't want this person to play in a lot of different ways. Mm-hmm. That doesn't sound like you want her to sit out. She went completely the opposite way of that. What's your take on the whole Star situation right now?
Okay, well, with Ava openly admits that she does not know that. She has said it over and over. She's like, I do not know how to pick up on social cues. I know I will say things that I am not supposed to say. She's like, but this is just the way that I am. I'm just so I empathize with that a little bit, because I'm like, okay, I get that. But at the same time, it's an interesting thing. Star, she's all over the place for me. I don't understand. I mean, she gets that, the beware advantage. Mm-hmm. She finds it.
Mm-hmm.
And then she goes over to Joe and who's the other guy?
It's still early. We don't have to know their names yet.
Joe and the other guy. And she shows them right away. Oh, well, actually, she shows Joe, and then Joe goes and gets Esty. And he like brings him in, and they're trying to work that out. And then right away she runs over to Thomas and Bianca, and she shows them too. And I'm like, okay, if you're gonna tell all four of them, obviously they all know now who your target is. And I'm like, this just went all over the place. But once again, that's just from her pre-interviews. This is something that they said about her. That a lot of people, when they talked about her in the pre-interviews, they sat there and said, we don't know how we feel about her, because while you're at Ponderosa, they're supposed to be quiet the whole entire time. And apparently she kept on talking. She did not know how to stop talking. And people were like, if somebody like her can't follow the rules at Ponderosa,
right,
how can I trust her out on the island?
Yeah. And that's maybe where she comes across. I can't figure her out, because they basically said she hasn't really made relations with anybody. Tom even said, hey, like, I've been waiting for you to say something to me, or like talk strategy with me or whatever. But that seems more like a facade.
Oh, absolutely.
So that makes more sense to me now that, she was already not perceived well, or at least not perceived as somebody's number two, or wanting to even be in an alliance with this person from the very beginning before the island.
Yeah, because there was a lot of comments on the pre-interviews that sat there and said, yeah, there's this one girl that they kept on having to tell her to stop talking because she was constantly trying to say things. And they were like, you can't be talking while you're here in Ponderosa. And that automatically built a lot of mistrust in a lot of them. So yeah, Tom even saying that, I was like, yeah, that's just him playing the role. Because I was like, I mean, of course you're going to sit there and want to be like, I listen to everybody when they come and talk to me.
Mm-hmm.
You're not going to just shun somebody away. Kind of like Eva did to her, where you're like, you're not going to compete in the challenge.
Right. Okay. Well, and on the opposite spectrum of that is somebody that I think, Star has maybe one good idea and the rest are like, what are you doing? And then you have Thomas, I think, is on the other side, where he has a bunch of great ideas, but I think he slipped up once. The Star characters typically stay in the game because they get treated as you're going to be second runner up, is what you're going to be doing. You're a tag along. You're a tag along, unless you cause way too much mischief. Maybe she's throwing rice into the fire along with Say. Maybe they both like throw it into the fire. That would be quite the team right there. Star and Say. We'll see if that happens. But then you have Tommy, who it was during. Let me make sure I read this right. He's approached about what to do about this this awesome way to give somebody an immunity idol, and they're trying to help her locate, trying to help her figure out how to get this idol. And Tommy says, well, just throw it out.
Yeah,
just throw it out. So with that, like, I believe it was Joe that basically said, wait, hold on. He's playing a deeper game than all of us think he is, because he's now telling somebody to throw basically a challenge, except for it's an idol. What's your take on it? Do you think that was a great piece of advice that he gave Tommy? Do you think it was great, but he didn't say it right? Where are you at with what Tommy?
I think it was a good idea, but I think that he presented it wrong. I think the way that he should have it was, he should have sat there and said, let's hide it until we get her voted out, and then we'll have it.
Yep.
He could have sat there and said, because saying just throw it out, you're sitting there saying, well, we got rid of the immunity idol, nobody's going to have it, nobody's going to have it in possession. If I don't have it, you don't have it. And that's how people are going to think. And whereas if he sat there and said, why don't you just go ahead and hide it and tell her, I don't know what I did with it, I lost it, or something along those lines.
Do you think he was trying to throw him? I mean, and that's a classic way to be like, hey, now I got something on this guy. I can go if I get in, or if Star catches this, or if heat comes from this, I can be like, well, he's the one that lost it.
Yeah.
Do you think he was thinking that too, or do you think that was?
No, I think that I mean, I don't know, but I think that Thomas was straight up just like, no, we can't let her figure it out at all. So we need to get rid of this immediately. And the only way we're going to get rid of this immediately is if we sit there and hide the piece of parchment or the piece of paper that gives the clues to actually what the letters are. And so I think that that's all he was doing is like, how can we get rid of this immediately, instead of actually thinking it through a little bit and saying, let's keep it for ourselves for later or something along those lines. I think that it was just handled incorrectly. I think it was a good way to think about it, but it was handled incorrectly.
Okay, I can agree with that. Again, I think it's that you just got on the island. We're going to see some mess ups these first couple of days because people are just trying to figure out how to say things, and they maybe had a plan coming in. But as you know, just by doing online reality games, like your first couple times playing is where you're just learning how to play. Yeah. Like you're trying to figure out, okay, so this is what non-anxious me would do. But then you find on the island, okay, what does anxious me do? What does I need to think at the moment and not mess up me do? And I think that Tommy thing was one of those things where it could have been like, okay, like I could have. I think he's going to look back and be like, I should not have said it the way I did.
Yeah, I think I personally think that it should have been said in a different way. Now, I do have to ask, though, what did you think of the different tasks for each group, that they didn't have the same task like they normally do? They actually had the paper. Like, personally, I think that the paper one, matching up the symbols, was way harder than just finding letters.
Yeah. I don't know how to feel about this because I think this is the first time that they've done a immunity aisle differently when it comes to how to obtain. Typically they hide in different places on the island or whatever. One might be in the sand compared to one up in the trees. But this was like completely different. Well, although there was that season where one tribe found it in a thing of wax. Remember that? And she brought it to tribal council to melt it. Did all the tribes have a waxed idol?
I don't remember on that one. Wasn't that with Tiffany I thought they did, because I thought Tiffany had to burn hers too, and she burned it in camp.
Okay, so this probably is the first time that they ever had 3 different types. And you said you thought that the coloring one was the most difficult or the easiest, where they had to.
Well, where they had to match up the pictures. So the one that we're talking about right now with SD and Star and stuff like that, where they had to match that up, because instead of just like unwrapping a thing and finding a letter, they literally had to match up the picture, find out what the letter was, figure out if the letter was correct. I mean, I was like, that's much more difficult than just, hey, this color matches this bird. Let me find what letters by it,
Yeah. And which one would have been the easiest? I would have loved the wordsmith one. I love like taking a scrambled word and trying to solve as much as possible. I don't know if enlist would have been on my mind at first. I think she did a great job of kind of telling what was going on in her head on how she got.
There was 2 of those. Two of them actually had that. The first one, where Saya, she actually had the word thing too. She had to sit there and do the thing, and her word was listen.
Listen. Mm-hmm.
It was still the same letters. It was listen, and then she, the other one had the enlist. Okay. So I thought that was cool too, because I was like, the 2 words are different too. So like somebody can't sit there and whisper to the other tribe and be like,
enlist. But at the same time, like, don't you think? I mean, it's only 6 letters, so wouldn't you think that they would have been like, okay, well, obviously ours is different than theirs. That's different. Am I right by saying that 2 of them had the unscramble and the other one had the matching? That's weird. I wish they were all 3 completely different from each other, because I think that once you start talking to different tribes, especially if you're the 3 people that go out to do the thing on the island to get the idol or to play the little game, that's when you can be like, hey, we found this clue and this is how we got it. I can easily see how they'd be like, well, they just gave me the way to find the idol on the island, but ours is completely different. So I wonder if they threw in a little bit of differences in that to be like, oh, is that person lying to me? And maybe they did to the listen and list thing. Maybe he's like, hey, the words listen. They put it in. And they're like, oh, he just lied to me. Like, do you think that that's why they did?
It's possible. It's very possible. But don't all 3 of them have it? They just haven't opened up the one with Saya yet? I mean, with the Star yet? I thought she has the tube too.
So there's the enlist one, the listen one. Is there a third?
Yeah, it's the one that Star has right now. That's it. They were all. Weren't they all beware advantages?
I need to go back and watch this. I'm sure they all three are beware advantages.
And she had the two too. It's just that they were trying to figure out the letters by matching the pictures. And they didn't have the letters yet.
Got it. That makes more sense to me.
Yeah.
That makes more sense to me. I like it. It's not watching the same thing 3 different times.
So it's like what Max was saying. He's right on there. He said, I thought I had different methods of getting the letters, but they use the same device to input it. So it is there. It's just they all had to get different ways to get the letters.
Yeah.
I was like, which one is different? To me, matching up the pictures looks like the hardest one.
Mm-hmm.
The other one was you have to match the colors to the picture because the colors were different. Like the dolphin was purple. That's the one that Saya had. And then the other one was, I don't remember what they had to do, but it was, they were all
unravel. There, like those letters were found in different places nearby. They had to take the rope off. That's what it was. I like that one. I do like that they switched it up because it's different. But for me, watching the show, there's already so many people to watch that, as you just found out the last 5 minutes of me getting the whole entire thing wrong, I couldn't follow it enough to say exactly what was happening. But I also like the one where, it was like the bird cage with the key in it, that it's the same exact thing, but you saw 3 different ways at which it was used. You know what I'm saying? You remember with Carolyn?
Yeah. Okay, nobody will ever forget with Carolyn.
Oh, Carolyn. We love you, Carolyn. Come on our show. So I think that, I don't know, it was different, and but I really, I think I would really like seeing 3 different ways to do the same thing to kind of understand how people think more. So I do like the fact that they had to kind of bring somebody in to help them do it, because that helped develop the trust just to find the item, the thing, or in the case of Star, to try to be like, hey, let's just lose everything. And so,
I mean, she was trying to bring in trust because she was like, I don't have a place in this tribe. I mean, she gave her whole speech about how she didn't have a place. So she's like, but now I do, I have the cookie. So it's
the cookie. Oh, the cookie. It is a red velvet cookie with nasty red icing. Not much of a cookie she has right now. Not even hungry for the cookie. So we're gonna keep on going. What did you see in the last half of the game as I read my notes that is like a moment that you want to address in this episode?
I'm trying to remember the last half of the game now at this point. Let me see what I have. Okay, so when they went on the quest, each of them got a different reward. I thought that was interesting. I mean, we didn't get to see what Mary's reward would have been because she didn't win it. But with Thomas he got a still a vote, and then the other guy, Mitch, ended up getting a block a vote. So I thought that was interesting too, that they don't even get the same, they don't get the same thing on there. What did you think of that puzzle though?
I thought it was a very interesting puzzle. I've never done a puzzle like that before.
Yeah.
I've loved that they're doing a great job by showing or narrating the thought process of the puzzle. I think whatever puzzle you have, give me the thought process of the players as they do the puzzle. Where are you at on that?
I didn't I just kept on seeing it, but they didn't actually show it. So I think I'm on the same thing with you, where it was like, well, what are they doing? Why wasn't it just easy to push along and get on there? I mean, was there are 15 up here at first, and maybe I just completely missed that, but I was like, I didn't understand what they were going for, and they didn't actually give how anybody actually solved it. So my guess is that 5, 5, and 5, all the numbers were out of sorts, and you could only have one number out of the puzzle at a time. And so you had to take that number and put it on whatever side of the board to create, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 15. So the reason why they couldn't just take it out and put it where they wanted to is because they had to make sure that the chronological order stayed. Because if you try it and you don't think ahead enough, you're going to knock out a number prematurely and not be able to stick it back in where it once came from. Does that make sense? Yeah, but did they have the 15 up at the top level, and then they had like the 7 at the bottom level?
I think
I mean, was that how it was jumbled up?
Yeah, it was all scattered. It was all scattered.
Okay.
None of them, I don't think, were in any kind of consistent order. So like it wasn't ever by the 3. So they had to figure all that out with a given time amount. Mm-hmm.
Okay.
Yeah. I'm going to try it. Yeah, we should try it and see how we do.
Okay.
Yes. Yes. And we'll figure that one out. Get a carpenter in here and make us a board. Yeah, so I love that it was 3 different things, but I don't like that there was no it was at random. I think if you can make something random is good until it's too much. And I think that if they played a little game amongst the 3 of them, not the game that Zelensky lost, or Zelensky lost. That was I think one of the better games ever. But some kind of contest, maybe you do the finger thing again, to say, hey, this path has the highest risk or highest reward. This path has the not as favorable reward. And then you have a conversation between the 3 of them. This person won, that person could say, hey, like, I don't want the highest reward. I'm going to give that to you as a little gesture that says, hey, I want to build a relationship with you. So I think that there's some ways that they could improve that significantly and take out some unneeded randomness. Does that make sense?
Yeah, no, that makes complete sense. Because then it actually gives them more interaction with each other than just being like, okay, go on your path. A
little bit of trust, show some gameplay, and then help, decide if you want to be the one, and I'll let them know, hey, I'm in trouble. I need this. Like, I like those conversations too. So, yeah, I think that'd be great.
And then I think the other thing that has to be talked about is the whole humble traits. I mean, I don't know what cameraman they have that lately has a foot fetish for these people, but
I hate feet. I hate feet so
bad. Me too. And I was like, okay, first we got Dee's big toe. Now we're getting Charity's like messed up foot. Like, what is going on with this? And I'm like,
I want to be on the season where you are mandated to wear shoes everywhere you go. Like, I can't even. I would rather 16 calendars on your belly. I'm not looking at your feet. Like, I'll do letters every day.
But they absolutely love showing that. It's one of those where they're like, oh, let's keep on showing her. And I'm like, why are we looking at this?
No, just I can't even. I can't. I'm glad we agree. I'll just end that one.
Maybe that's the only thing they could show from that tribe right now because they're doing so well.
No. They can lose next challenge in that case. What is your trait? Your humble trait?
My humble trait is being friends with people with really bad taste in football teams.
This will be your last episode of Spilled the Beans ever. Go Raiders! Unbelievable. Brought her on. Okay, so this was okay. I now have my date. I've guided us to the Davidism because it happened, and at the end of the challenge, which Mitch came and just destroyed the competition. It also showed a little bit of Ava being a little bit too
intense.
Yes, unwilling to move on and let somebody else shoot the ball. Maybe that's part of I don't know if that's an autistic trait. It might just be a personal trait of hers. I mean,
you have to remember her big background is she was into sports. Like, she's a hockey girl,
right? So I don't think it's an autistic.
She plays hockey with guys.
Yeah,
she doesn't play in a girls' league. She plays hockey with guys. So I can imagine she's like hardcore, just that person.
She's not going to give it to anybody else. She's not going to give that. So I think that is her athleticism, her competitive level more than anything else. It looks like Mitch, calm, cool, collected. Granny shotting all those basketballs. I'm picking him on my fantasy basketball team next year.
Right?
He's good to go. But then at the end,
he just switched it in every single time. I mean, I don't know if they edited it to make it look like he got every single one, but it didn't look like they did. But
it was fantastic. Yeah, I don't think they edited. I mean, they could have, I guess, but I don't think they did. They even said on a cast, they were saying, some of those contests, you edit them to make them closer than what they really are. And Jeff has said, and there's times where I remember Winners at War, there was one team that was doing significantly amount better in the first episode where they had to touch a pole. Tony, yeah. Where I think they kind of edited that a little bit, but for the most part, the closer competitions are as close as they seem. Yeah. So I that's a great question. If it wasn't, he had a high percentage.
Oh yeah, very high percentage. I mean, because he got there second and he made it before the first team. So it's, no matter what, they deserved the win. He was amazing. He got such a great edit this episode.
He did.
It was amazing everything that he did.
And we did. I want to get to Max's comment, but we did a Davidism real quick. And Mitch is the MVP. Everybody's cheering, and our boy David had to show his strength by lifting up Mitch. And he did two things. He showed his appreciation, but he also showed his strength.
Yeah.
But guys, remember how strong I am? Great job, Mitch. But hey, man. Oh, Mitch. Or Danny.
David.
What's his
name? David.
Get that right. So David, our boy. So we have this Adventures with Max. I wish we could have seen the conversation with the tribe when Star decided to sit out on that challenge. After getting called out by Ava, I would have wanted to prove myself.
I completely agree with that. I mean, I don't understand how she just willingly because that wouldn't have been me. I could tell you 100% that would not have been me. If somebody would have sat there and said, "Oh, I think that you're the one that should have sat out," I'd be like, "I think you're the one that should have sat out." I'd be like, "That's not going to happen."
And how did you do on our season of online reality game?
It was a sexist team that I was against.
No, I'm kidding. You did not get voted out for that. But, the counterpoint to that, right, is, okay, how, even though I'm fierce and even though, I just got put in my place, do you risk saying, no, I'm going to do this?
Well, I don't think that she did because of the fact that she already thought that because she showed everybody her little advantage, that she thought, you know what, I'm just going to go ahead and go along with it because now I'm friends with all these people and I now have, so why am I going to make waves? Which is completely understandable. I mean, I get it. And as you're playing in the moment, that's actually the smart move to do.
Yeah.
But if she wouldn't have found that advantage at that point, I think maybe it would have been a different storyline. I think she would have been like, no, I'm not sitting out. Somebody else is sitting out.
And you nailed it. That is the point of having an idol, is that you're almost able to think more clearly, or think at least in a different way. Because, you have some people who lose 2 idols at a time because they were thinking way too safe. But it does give your brain, I think, a little bit of security to be able to have more in-depth thinking, maybe more options for you on the table on how to play the game. So that is a thing that people holding idols right now do have over somebody else.
So I do understand that there's a right now, because the last season that they watched was 46, and they watched all those people walk out with idols. I think that they're going to be playing every idol that they get almost immediately. So it's going to be a idol happy season this year.
100%. We've talked about that on Spilled Immunity, that basically you try to completely overcorrect whatever happened this season you just got done watching, and we're still coming off that no idol, vote out.
And then them clipping to the part where Mary is talking to the other girl on the bench. I thought that was an interesting, really quick, "Hey, what's your name?" I was like, okay, they don't usually show that, but maybe that's just
that was foreshadow, or do you think that was just, we're going to include it?
I just think that it's showing that Star doesn't know how to stop talking.
That is true. And speaking of stop talking, as we are 3 minutes away from us stopping our talk, and we're going to need to get some predictions for episode 3. Okay. So we'd love to be able to predict this. But first, honorable mention this week for Mary, who went to the voting block, got the marker out, and have a vote, and she says, "Psych, I don't have a vote." That was
her personality was actually really great. I love her.
I became a Mary fan right then and there. She ain't winning this game, but I became a Mary fan right then and there. Who's kind of in the same position that Rachel became on episode 4. So you got to watch out. There might be a little Mary Rachel dichotomy.
I think that if she could convince the guys that Saya is such a threat, she'll be saved again next week. I personally think, once again, I think they're going to go to tribal, and I think if Mary could get at least one of the guys and convince them, look how dangerous she is, look how much she's playing, because they're not going to work together. Saya and Mary are not going to work together. That's just not going to happen.
Yep.
But if she could convince one of those guys, I think she'll be fine again next week, and they'll get Saya out.
We'll find out. I think that everybody in that tribe is on high alert with what's his name going out Kevin going out this week. All right, prediction. Let's go with the question of you said it was the green tribe that's going to go out. And if Mary does make that connection, who's gone?
Saya.
Think Saya. Okay.
Yeah, I think if Mary makes that connection, I think it'll either be between Mary and Saya, but I think Mary will somehow get a connection with one of them, because one of them will. I think it'll be Justin, because I think Justin's very intelligent. I think him as a store owner and all that other stuff, I think he'll be able to see that, and he's already questioning. I don't think they'll ever get Cedric to change.
Okay.
I think Cedric is way too close with Saya, because he has that connection with her, and I think she'll go to Justin and she'll sit there and be like, "Look at this." I personally would put it in his analogy that he would understand. Would this be an employee that you would want that's trying to take over everything? And put it in his eyes, his perspective, his everything. And if she could get him to switch, I think Saya would go home.
Okay. I
agreeing with me.
I can't agree with you. It's your Bronco-ness and my Raider-ness that does not allow for me to agree with you. So I'm going to say that Mary is still the dominant voice. I think she's so dominant that all these people underneath her are not going to be able to compete with her, and I think they're going to be skittish. I think they're going to be skittish to vote Saya. What?
Do you mean Saya?
Saya. Who am I saying?
You said Mary was the dominant voice.
This is terrible. Where's Brie and Alex? Thank you for being them by now. Or by the way, so I think Saya is going to be too much of a dominant personality. I think they're going to squeak out a win. I really do. Wow. And I think that the storyline of Tommy kind of saying too much too soon. I think Tommy, this is a very not thought out guess, but I think Tommy's going to go home because I think he's going to get too big for his britches on this next episode. So
that is kind of what they showed in the preview, where there's Tommy was talking he's like, oh, demolish your plan with Star. So possibly.
I think he's playing too hard too soon. So thank you very much, Melissa, for being on Spill the Immunity. I hope you had a good time.
I did. Thank you so much for inviting me.
You're welcome. We're welcome. We'll have Bree and Alex back next week. And go Raiders. See you guys next week.